Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? It's me, Paddy from across the shuck. Sorry, I'm just going to take a wee drink of tea. I forgot to do that before I started. You're very welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to talk about, in my opinion, this whole video is my opinion, and it's what I accept. What will you accept when you buy a new knife or when you buy a second-hand knife? What are the things that are going to put you off a knife? Because that's so important. So especially when I buy quite a lot of my knives in the second-hand market. One, because it's cheaper. Two, because then it enables me to get more. But now there's a lot of knives that I buy new. But it's what I'm willing to accept. And I suppose we're all different and we'll all accept different things. You'll hear people saying, oh, well, gaps don't bother me as long as it doesn't affect the knife. You know, the alignment doesn't bother me as long as it doesn't affect the knife. And the fit and finish, I can accept things that maybe you wouldn't. And everybody is different. But I think if you set them sort of rules for what you will accept, what you won't accept, they're your rules and you keep to them. And if you break them and it goes wrong, there's only you to blame. It's not the seller, it's because you didn't check. And I think that's the important thing. So for me, where I buy a lot of second-hand knives, I love the older knives. These little pen knives that come in this fake ivory, it's just plastic. But they're super little knives. They're the knives that our grandfathers would have carried, and some of you, their great-grandfathers would have carried. But it's just a lovely pen knife. Two-bladed pen knife. You have which is really unusual, a lovely Wharncliffe and then a little pen blade. They're both about the same size, a little bit longer cutting length than this, I think. But just a lovely shaped little knife. Great snap. And that's what the seller told me. He didn't even say about blade rub, because when you get little knives like this, sometimes you get blade rub. On this one, there is no blade rub, which is more of a bonus than anything else. And the back spring, there is quite a large-ish sort of gap there. But when a seller who I trust, and over the years you pick up good sellers that you go to, he said the snap was very good in this, and you heard it, it is. So the fact that I've got a bit of a gap there, it really means nothing. It really means, when I was a child, and this is sort of knife that I would have picked up and used when I was a little boy, mostly single-bladed little pen knives. I never once picked one up and said, oh, what's the alignment like? Oh, is there any gaps up the back? No, I just bought a knife because it was a knife and there was a sharp edge on it. That's all that interested me. And the other things of, is there a pin risen? I've never done this in my life until I come into this community, checking all the and I know I do it. And I started doing it. I've sort of got away from it as much now, except when it's an expensive knife. And I really, that's what I expect from that knife. And again, I bought it because that's what I expect. So if it comes and it's not there, it either goes back or I can live with it, one of the two. But you can't blame the sellers. You know, on 99% of the time, it's what we see, what we ask, the questions they ask. And there's very few sellers that will give you just direct lies to your question. I know it can happen, but let's pretend that it doesn't happen. But sellers will put knives in certain positions so that you don't see maybe something that they're trying to cover up. And that's dishonesty. That's nothing. There's nothing you can do about that. So on the whole, the sellers that I go back to are the ones that have told me the truth in the past. So loyalty is one of the things that accepts that. Now, and this all came about because the two channels, Slippy and Thrifty Show, which is on a Sunday, and Knife Chats with Tobias, which was on yesterday as well. And they both had topical videos. I want you to go and watch both of them. They're two fantastic videos. The two boys done one on storage for your knives, and Tobias was just talking about traditional knives. And it was great just to have a topic to follow along with, and they both made excellent jobs of it. So go and see them. I'll put the names of their channels down in the description. If you don't, most people that are on my channel are in theirs, but if you don't go over, you'll find a really interesting two channels to get your teeth into. So again, back to this one again. There's a gap in this. I seen it in the picture. He put it clear there was a gap there. Didn't bother me. He had said that there was a great snap. So that meant that this part of the fit and finish means nothing to how the knife works. Because when you get a good snap, that it means the blades are in place well. And when it came and I pulled the blade out and you move it, there's no movement. There's just no movement at all on it. None. Even if you get it up here, look, nothing. Nothing on it. So this is a super little penknife. Lovely little thin blades, thin behind the edges, great for slicing, cutting, just an everyday little pen. And that snap, it's just beautiful. So that's one thing I'll look out for when a dealer says great snap, because it usually means the construction of the knife, although it might not be perfect to the eye, the construction of the knife is good. The back spring's good. Everything you'd want is good. And I buy an awful lot of older knives, that being one of them. Here's another one. This is a Joseph Rogers, I think. Is it Joseph Rogers? Yeah, Joseph Rogers. Listen to that. This is the thing. The open and close snap, a lot of dealers, especially in the traditional world, will tell you what it's like. The dealers that I go to tell me the truth. So I know that it is. Look at that. And look at the centering on that. The centering is next to perfect. And it's another thing. I came from, and look at this is not perfect. This hasn't, it's not half. There's not so much as big gaps, but you can hear that. It's sort of just not hafted down fully. Or over the years, the spring is just bent up a wee bit, whatever. But, you know, there is imperfections in it, but it's an older knife. It's in buffalo horn. I bought it because of that. Look at that feathering in the horn. Is that not just stunning? Absolutely beautiful. Did I know this side was like that? Yes, because the dealer I was put both up. Because a lot of, when you get bone that's got really beautiful bits on the front, well, this is on the back side, but when you get it one side, it's very rarely that you're going to get it on equal sides, unless it's an expensive knife. Very rarely. So this was beautiful, and that's what I bought it for. That is beautiful. That's a side I'm going to show someday. But I know this is like this. But if I didn't know, and this knife came, and I was thinking that the other side is going to be the same, I'd be completely disappointed, wouldn't I? But you're talking maybe a £30 knife. So you can't expect that. So it's your expectations and what you want. Here's a modern knife, and this is a work knife. It's about £38, made brand new in a factory on a production line, but they're all handmade in that production line, or hand finished. This is an Arthur Wright. You've got Taylor's Eyewitness over here, quite a few other ones. This has a really strong pull. Listen to that opening. And Arthur Wright are known for the really strong pull. Taylor's Eyewitness, not so much, although some of theirs can be quite strong. But Arthur Wright really are known for the harsh. And that's why they're my favourite over Taylor's Eyewitness, is because of that strong backspring. I love a strong backspring. And it's not a safety thing. It's more, I just feel, I enjoy the sound of a knife opening and closing with a great thwack. And I don't get any blade rub. Listen to that. Look at that. Is it centered? Oh, you can see it yourself. It's not centered as such, not fully centered, but there you go. It's over to the left-hand side there a wee bit, but it's not rubbing. It's perfect. Is there any gaps in it? There is not gaps. The front of the back spring here dips down a little bit, and it's a little bit up at the back, so you can feel the difference. It's not completely smooth. Transitions. I never, ever looked for transitions to be fantastic in my life until I came into the knife community. Pins have to be completely flush. Never bothered me in my life beforehand. But I suppose if you're talking about resale, maybe that's the sort of thing you have to be careful of. But these are beautifully done anyway. But I'll show you, there's more expensive knives here that don't, that's not their priority. You'll feel where the pins are. Here's another older knife. This is new old stock I got at the show. This is my George Wilson home. Not much snap in it at all. It really isn't. It's not something you worry about. Now, there's a bit going down, and maybe if I clean it out, that might improve a little bit, but it's never going to be strong unless I start battering pins. But I don't want to do that. I picked this and I bought it. I had it in hand, and I decided, no, I'm quite happy. That's it. There you go. An absolutely beautiful older knife, and I bought it because of the bone and the fact that it was a UK knife, and I got it at a really good price. I think I got that for about 60, which I was more than happy to pay. And again, I just said that I love strong back springs, and then 2 in a row I showed you 2 that I quite happily accept because I knew when I bought them. I was told this one was going to be weak. I got it because I love the bone. I love that 35 pattern. It's a GC 35 pattern. The equal end cigar, just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's about a 3 pull. Does that bother me? No. Look at that beautiful blade. Um, it's an absolutely mirror polish finish. It is beautiful. I got my fingers all over it. Beautiful knife. No blade rubs on it. It's just a lovely knife. Am I worried about having a 3 pull? No. You put your finger up there and hold on to that knife. It would take a hell of an accident for it to cut you. And again, that's a big thing about traditional. They're not fidgety knives. So the chances you getting cut by doing something stupid are drastically reduced. Since I've come back to traditional again and stopped all the fidgety flicking and all that sort of thing, I don't cut myself anywhere near as much. It's that carelessness that gets you cut, that fidgeting about. But that's just my opinion. So this is a light pull? I couldn't care because the fit and finish of this knife is absolutely beautiful. I didn't pay big money for it because there was that light spring, because a lot of people don't like that light spring, and I was able to buy it at a good price, and I love it because I like Shatton Morgan. Again, all these knives have something I've had to accept. Here's a case knife. Now, I've gone up for a sort of up the scale market. This is a Tony Bowes, and most of the knives that they do for Tony Bowes, because he was part of the team and he would have come in and showed them how to do these models, how he wanted them to look and behave. Look at this one. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful shield. What's it like to open? It's a single bladed sow belly, which is, they're getting like hen's teeth. But it's only about a 5. Yeah, it's not that strong. About a 5. Let's say a 5, 4.5, 5. But you have a beautiful blade shape, you have a beautiful handle shape, that sow belly, and with a single blade you have nothing in here that's going to annoy you, which is why this is such a beautiful knife in the hand. So if you're going to get a sow belly, if you can get a single bladed sow belly, look at that, you can't close it in yourself unless you're doing something silly. You've got Tony Bowes' signature on there, which will probably go away once I use it more. That's not the point, but you can sort of, you think when you're getting a Tony Bowes in a case knife, usually the fit and finishes pretty well, and that is pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Do you know what I mean? When you look down there, unless you're going to try and nitpick something, but I mean, look at how well that's been cut off. I mean, this is a lovely case knife. And again, I always say with case at the minute, because they do some horror shows, unless you can see it in pictures of the knife that you're buying and ask how the snap is or whatever, make sure you ask as many questions as you can. Now, you can't do that when you're buying from new, and you're just buying it from, Blade HQ or wherever you buy in the UK, or Heine Haynes over here. You can ask them to check a knife for you because you want such and such. And even when you're buying from them, there's always a wee comment box that you can ask any other details. You can ask, yes, I want to make sure the centering's all right. Whatever's important to you, ask. But this is a case, and it's exceptional. I just adore this knife. Absolutely adore it. And forget about all the things you say about case. I have a drawer full of about 18 case knives, and I think there's only one of them with slightly dodgy backspring, as in there's gaps in it, because I've handpicked them all, or I've bought them from friends who I trust and tell me everything's all right. And that, to me, is the way you have to buy case. Much like, buying a knife like that for £60. Unless I could see a George Wolstenholme in hand, or I trust a dealer I was buying from, I wouldn't buy it. Just wait. One will always come along. You don't have to buy today if you're not sure of the person or what it's, if you don't know them. Don't buy. Wait, because one will come along. I mean, I've wanted something like that for years, and now I've got it. It's there. But again, there's case. This is a Tony Bowes, which they usually do a better job of than most of their basic models. And they usually charge a little bit more for it too, but I don't mind if I'm getting a knife that I like. It's not a strong backspring, but it's a good enough backspring. Centering on it is off to the right-hand side a little bit. You very rarely get a case up and down the middle, in my experience, but as long as they're not rubbing, I don't care. And it wasn't always like this, because when I came back from, like I say, when I was collecting the modern knives and you come over to traditional, the blade was off centre. Oh my God, that's terrible. Look how off that is. when in reality it means absolutely nothing to the knife. As long as it's stable, there's nothing, you know. Here's a real great example. My first GEC had a problem, but the dealer, or the fella I bought it off, wasn't a dealer, it was a friend, who I bought it off, told me about it beforehand. And it's such a nice thing to do, because it really, really does make things so much more honest when you just tell the truth and something. And he said, look, before I even asked, he said, I'm selling this to you. It's in mint condition. It's a little bit off center. Yeah, so this is the first one I got, and I really wanted it to be perfect. Back then, I thought, oh, it needs to be perfect, but the price he gave me was good. He was reflecting the fact that it was off center, and it's one of my favourite and most used knives in my collection, full stop. It's a number 78 pattern, beautiful big spear point, used every week. This will get used for at some point. And the only thing, now this isn't a strong backspring either. This is only about just over a 5, but it's perfect. There's the only thing about it. Off to the right hand side here, you can see it better that way. There you go. It's off to the right hand side, but it's not touching. It's not touching. And when I'm opening it, I just put my finger in the back of it and lift it straight up. I don't tend to push it over that way. Does it rub if I do that? No. But I've just got into the habit of doing it because that's it. It's a little bit off center, but you can see there's a gap right the way down there. So there's no rubbing. And I've had this for what, about 5 years, and used the living daylights out of it. It has never moved from the spot it was in. Never moved once. So as a knife, absolutely amazing. And that telltale thing is, look at that match up there. Nothing. And I have battered this knife. Nothing. Just perfect. For me, it's just perfect. It's a beautiful working knife. And most of my knives I want to be working knives. Here's a tailor's eyewitness. Now, again, the tailor's eyewitness, this is the high-end model where you get like desert ironwood, these beautiful big steels, mirror polished blades. I mean, these are 150, 170 pound. Beautiful knife. Most of them have got a very strong backspring for pulling, but this one is beautifully hafted, and look at that. It is just a beautiful backspring. I think this was about 170 when I bought it from the Bakewell cook shop. It's a stunning knife. But listen, sorry, I didn't buy it. I was given this for doing something for them. And it's about a 6 maybe, but listen to that, look at that. There's a little bit of wobble there. Does it affect the knife? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it's not a really heavy snap closed. Now, is it because the backspring has been filed? I don't know. But it snaps up lovely to attention, but there is that little bit of wobble. But it's nothing to do with the knife. Look at that, snaps in there beautifully. Centered, nearly perfect. Everything about this, the fit and finish, is just beautiful. And if you want to do all the transitions, they're all perfect. It's an expensive knife, and it's more, for a lot of people, this is more just a show knife. They're not going to use this. I don't use it a whole lot. I'll take it out for special occasions, things like that. But it's just such a beautiful knife. So that little bit of the wobble in the middle doesn't affect the knife whatsoever. The lockup is really good. So there you go. It's another beautiful knife. It's expensive. Would I rather it didn't have that wee bit in the middle? Maybe if I hammered the bolster a little bit, it might go away, but it doesn't affect. It's not wobbling when I'm using it, and that's the important bit for me. So sort of again, I just accept it. It has its little faults, but again, a beautiful knife. And here's an Ashley Harrison. Now we're getting up to the dear ones, and this is, I mean, like this, I expect this to be good. That little bit of wobble shouldn't be there. And I know I could send it back and get it changed. But the desert ironwoodness is beautiful. Everything about it, everything else about it is perfect. And I'm willing to accept it. Here's an Ashley Harrison custom. I mean, these are both made by one person by hand. It's a lovely little lamb's foot. I adore this knife. Is it perfect? It's as near perfect as you can get it. Maybe, look, if you see there, there's maybe a little blemish in the corner where the blade meets up. But it's not that much. Not that, I'm trying to find something to let you see that I would accept it. It's not, it's beautifully done. It is beautifully. Double bolster on there. Just look at that stag and the fit and finish and the way the stag's been mated up. The blade is absolutely beautiful. The stamping on the bolster, clear. I adore this knife. And this is made like this by one person, Lee White, Ashley Harrison, two great UK knife makers. And they just produce quality that is amazing at a price that's way under a lot of knives, which one of them I'm going to get onto now. But these boys are little messers. They are just amazing custom makers. They use the old materials and the old way, which is why the price has to be kept down, because they're not competing against M390 and whatever other blade steels that are out there. This is the old steels. It's made in the old way. It's a craft. It's just a lifestyle for them is making these, and they just don't. Now, a lot of maybe their custom side, they might add fancy steels if you ask them and pay the difference, but they're just making a proper custom knife, collector's knife. Most of them are collector's knives, but collectors like me use their knives. So that's taken me through sort of your average, and by no means am I calling two custom makers. I'm a GEC, or even this case, am I calling them average? They're not average. These are great high-end pen knives that I'm going to spend money on, because the £20 or £10 I spent on one of these will do most of what these will do. Maybe a little bit smaller, but you can get a bigger one, with a bigger blade. But I could get away with this for the rest of my life. And millions of men have done so in the past before me, get away with this size. But like everything else, we want to go up. So this is my highest end production knife. This is just a production line knife, but it's got hand finishing in it. And it's the hand finishing that elevates this from just a bog standard production knife to a very high end production knife, because the fit and finish on this is better than most customs, because it's so precise. Everything about this knife is made so precisely, beautifully. You cannot find faults with them. Very rarely do you get a tiny wee fault. Blade centering, perfect. Just beautifully done. This is an integral titanium bolster, and then you've got the inlay of this carbon fiber, which is beautiful. But everything is sharp, angular, just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Look at this in the middle. It is just gorgeous. That little smooth hump. It's beautiful, and it's on both sides of this. This is the Vampire Jack. So you've got that swell center in both. They're lovely rounded over. Well, this is not rounded, but these are the sides of it rounded over. This side rounded over. You get some of the knives where there's a sharp angle across it. This is just a different version in this handle. Beautiful knife. Absolutely stunning spear point, whatever you want to call it. I think it is beautiful. The heavy grind lines in there, which are just adorable. They really are beautiful. Everything about this knife, it is as near perfection as I could probably get. It's got a blade steel that's really not needed, but you've got it in S90V, which is an amazingly high edge retention knife. Fantastic. It will cut for weeks, not days. It will cut for weeks. It's a beautiful knife, 3mm blade, but a hollow grind, full hollow grind, which I absolutely love in the Jack Wolf knives. I measured this morning. It's between 15 and 16 thousandths behind the edge. Super job. That's it. Super job. Some of them go lower, but that's plenty enough for me. That is absolutely plenty enough for me. And I thoroughly enjoy it. Fit and finish, pull strength. This one's about a 7.5. It's absolutely perfect. And again, blade centering. Now you're paying big money for these, but you're paying big money because the quality is worth it. The blade steel, the titanium, the carbon fiber is good. Everything about this knife is high end, and it's not just a plain production line, the hand finishing. All these scales are made for the one knife. That's this knife. So they all have to be numbered, because when they're getting a titanium haft or whatever, they have to take the scales off to do any work underneath, and then they're put up back on at the end and then hafted on. There's a lot of hand finishing in these knives, which I just adore. Now, it's not a traditional knife. This is a modern traditional. So, there is a difference between this and this, but I just wanted to show you the difference between a high-end slip joint. It is perfect in every way. Does that mean that in my eyes that's better than this or this or this? It's not better. It's more precise in the actual carry out of the function. You might get the odd blemish in one of these. You'll not get it in one of these, or incredibly rarely if something slips through, which they don't because Ben and his team check them every time. So a beautifully high-end slip joint, but modern. And can you call this modern? This is a one man and his, just one man operation makes this knife. It's in modern materials. Well, it's not. No, it's not. I'm saying that because you've got micarta and you've got carbon. Uh, the micarta is just beautiful. There's a white G10 liners all the way around it. Beautiful blue micarta handle, which is just stunning. Lovely profile, a Lanny's clip, but this is a snub nose Lanny's clip. And I brought this one just as an example. When I bought this, it had blade rub. I wasn't told about that when I bought it, but that's not, just maybe you just didn't expect it at the time or didn't think it was. When he checked it, there was nothing on it. Whatever it was, when I opened it, and after I opened and closed it a couple of times, I noticed the big, huge blade wrap that had been there. Now, it took me a while to get the courage up because this was a £300 knife. And this is beautiful. And it's an N690, which is a more of a modern steel. I put my edge on it. I reprofiled it all. I had to take probably about 2mm out of the center part. But I think I've done it really, really well. I haven't affected the knife. I've got beautiful edges on both sides. And for hand sharpening, that's not bad. I was happy with that. Really pleased how it came out. And it's now being carried now so many times a week. It's unbelievable. I love this knife. It's a beautiful, the big Lanny's clip with that beautiful swell backside on it. It's just like it's beautiful. I love this, and I love the little snub nose on it. People say, "Oh, well, you can't poke." Just turn your knife. I never understand this. You can't poke. I mean, you just turn your knife sideways and put it in. I mean, if you go that way, yeah, it's going to be a problem. Turn it sideways and just do it. It's. I don't understand that statement where it ever even came from. I mean, doing that there is not going to make a difference to poke because it's sharp there. It goes in. Just seen it doing it on paper. It's no problem. So there we go. Walking, talking. This is beautiful. I can slap it down. The blade centering's great. I just want to take that out, and I just want to show you that there is nothing showing there. There is no blade wrap anymore. This knife is like a razor. I love it. So now it's so hard. I don't tend to do it a whole lot anymore, but I just wanted to show you that there's no blade wrap. I managed to take that out. So is this perfect? Is it equal to that? Yeah, it probably is in this case. This is so well made. South African maker, Michael de Plessis, and I think this is his son. Yeah, MDK. I think it is his son that made these. So again, one person from start to finish, and just a super quality knife. So when I get up to this end of the scale, I expect that quality. If the blade centering's too far off, if it's just a wee bit either way, couldn't care. But if it's starting to getting close to touching the sides, it's going back. Because like this is 275, this is 300. I'm not messing about when you get to that. When you get to that price, I want exactly what it says on the tin, which is a high degree of fit and finish that you want for that price. But when you get down here and this middle bit, you've seen the different ones and what's wrong with them, but I accept them for what they are and for the price you're paying. I can't expect the same for a GEC as I would for a custom at £300. This one is just over £100. Well, I paid 100 for it, so and I paid 300 for that one. It's 280 or 300, can't remember. But beautiful, so much more higher end than this. No matter what I think of GECs, this is production value. This is not production value. This is handmade, one custom maker. This is production as high as it gets for me. GECs are my favorite production knives. But anyhow, look, That's, I don't know whether you find that an interesting topic, but you've got to set the rules for yourself. And if you break the rules, then you have to accept the consequences when you get the knife. You need to do check, check, check when you're buying second-hand knives, especially. As many checks as you can get, as many photographs as you can get before, and especially when you're spending upwards of 50, £60 and then up the way, you nearly need to check, because if it comes and there's something wrong and you hadn't checked it, you do feel like a bit of a wally. Or you feel ripped off, which is another, if the dealer who you bought it off didn't tell you that there was this drastic mistake on it, there you go. That's his problem. I wouldn't use him again. I just wouldn't use him again, because I love the honesty of people. So there you go. That's me. I'm off now for a wee cup of tea and a sit down. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know, do you have things that you'll accept and you won't accept? Or is this something you maybe want to start putting into your thought process before you buy the knife at the price range, or if it's secondhand or brand new, what you will accept? To me, it's taken me years to get to what I will accept and what I won't accept. So there you go. Take care now. Bye bye.